I the a-hole for exposing my ex-husband for taking the gift I got for my son's 16th birthday? My female 36 ex-husband, male 37, divorced me after I got diagnosed with cancer. He made it all about him, then blamed me for our marriage failing. Got married to a 23-year-old woman who calls me by mocking nicknames. I try to have a good co-parenting relationship. I have a 16-year-old son who lives in both houses. His 16th birthday was days ago, and I bought him a console and sent it to his dad's house in advance since I was out of town and couldn't attend the birthday celebration. 2 days later, one day before the birthday, my ex-husband called saying he opened the gift I got for our son, used it, and broke it. I was in dismay when he told me, and I started arguing with him about paying for it to replace it. But he started pleading saying he has no money and asked that I either send another gift, didn't have to be a console, or just tell our son I didn't send him a gift. I told him no way I was going to lie to my son, but he kept begging saying he'll pay me back once he's able. I ended a call with him, then immediately called my son to let him know what his father did to his birthday gift. A huge fight ensued, and my ex-husband called me yelling saying I not only ruined our son's birthday celebration, but ruined his relationship with him over a stupid console that he was going to pay for, but that I was being spiteful trying to one-up him. My son went to stay at my place with my current husband, and hasn't been speaking to his dad. His dad is blaming me because our son refused to stay and celebrate his birthday there after finding out what his dad did. My ex-husband's wife berated me in a long text talking about how I caused a scene and used my son as a tool to get back at his dad when I could have worked things out like a mature adult. She said she doesn't get me and that there's something wrong with my personality. She even claimed she would be a better, more mature mom than me that never involved her kids in her fights with her partner. I was upset by her lecture and felt maybe I mishandled the situation and made a hasty decision. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your ex is a piece of work. First, he should never have opened a present. And second, how the heck do you break a console that fast? I don't know what it was, of course. But like, I have a Switch and an Xbox. And they've both taken quite a few good knocks over the years with no issue. You sure you didn't just return or pawn it? Edit. After some more thought and discussion below, I 100% think he stole it. Whether he pawned, returned, or kept it for himself, I don't know. But I just have trouble believing he just somehow broke a console beyond repair and binned it without discussion. And nobody else around. It's just way too suspicious. Right, I don't see how he broke it so quick. Like, I've dropped my PS4 a couple of times and the thing is old and still not broke. Also, OP, you're not the a-hole. And I'd block your ex-husband's wife and only talk to your ex-husband about your son. The stepmom needs to step out of it because she doesn't get a say. And your ex can't be mad if his son won't talk to him anymore. He's annoying. And he didn't have to open his son's gift when it was for the son, not him. Not the a-hole. What kind of a grown man opens his kid's birthday gift, uses it, and just like magic, breaks it? I'm ready to bet he broke the gift on purpose because he didn't buy your son anything and didn't want to look like a loser. Of course, for them it's okay for your son to believe that his mother didn't bother buying him a gift, but it's not okay for your son to know that his father is a selfish idiot. Also, the fact that the son believes his mom probably shows he knows what kind of a-hole his dad is. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, and you need to tell the ex's new wife to sit down and shut the heck up. You are co-parenting with a father, not her. She's the type that has a loud mouth and acts like she's older than me and knows better, always criticizing me, and getting herself involved in any arguments that occur. Big girls fix their mistakes. And since you're so insistent on putting yourself in affairs that don't concern you and trying to be the better mom, why don't you be a doll and cash up for the new console? Not the a-hole, obviously. And how does a console just break without a foul intent? You don't have to play nice with condescending leeches. Next story. Am I the a-hole for siding with my daughter when she said she doesn't want to stand up for her stepsister? I, 48 female, have been with my husband, 50 male, for 6 years now. I have a daughter, Bex, 16 female, from a previous relationship, and he has a daughter, Stella, 16 female, from his previous relationship. Bex and Stella go to the same school. Bex is a cheerleader while Stella is a quiet person. She likes to keep to herself and doesn't have a lot of friends. Bex, on the other hand, is friends with the whole cheer squad. Recently, Stella informed my husband and I that some other girls at school, who are not friends with Bex, have been picking on her during lunch. Stella doesn't want to involve the school because she would get into trouble for other unrelated matters. So my husband asked Bex if she could stand up for Stella and tell the other girls to back off. He feels that since Bex is a popular cheerleader, people will listen to her. Why he thinks this, I have no idea. Anyway, Bex said no. She said she doesn't want to fight someone else's fight. She doesn't want to make herself a target either. My husband then asked me if I could ask Bex. I did, and she said no again. I informed my husband that she rejected. He got angry and told that Bex is a spoiled blonde princess who thinks she's a nicer version of Regina George. Literally said that. My ex is a lawyer, single and no other child, so she does have some nice stuffs. And went on a rant about how popular girls have an easy time just being on the sidelines and not doing anything to stop bullying. I told him that while it would be a nice thing for Bex to stand up for Stella, she isn't obligated to do anything. At dinner, he brought it up again. Stella was quiet and didn't say anything, and when Bex said no again, he started yelling at her. I yelled at him, told him to leave Bex alone, and he stormed off. Bex has since then staying with her father. Yesterday, my husband tried to call Bex, but my ex answered and told him to leave her alone. He then started telling me to talk to her. I said I already did, and she said no, and I wasn't going to force her. He called me an a-hole and hasn't spoken to me since. Am I the a-hole? Edit. For everyone asking, the reason Stella says she doesn't want the school involved is that she cheated on a test. But Bex has told me that Stella once used a racial slur which is strictly against school policy, but Stella hasn't confessed to that. Not an a-hole. This is just wrong. A grown man harassing a teenager? Your ex is a lawyer. Do you see where this might end up? Opie seems to be an a-hole to her daughter, so I think everyone sucks here except Bex. If someone called my daughter a spoiled Regina George and bullied her in her own home, there would be some serious consequences. I wouldn't be questioning whether I was being the bad guy with my husband or a step-kid, who might even be an instigator here, given that she thinks she will face consequences from the school if she goes to them about the bullying. What a terrible situation to put Bex in. Hopefully, she can stay at her dad's and Opie will apologize and prioritize visiting her and taking her out one-on-one. Your husband is a bully. Yelling at and then calling a 16-year-old to continue arguing with her? Wow, not appropriate. Being popular in school is a slippery slope. Just because Bex is hanging out with a bunch of girls doesn't mean she controls the group. Plus, if the group picking on Stella isn't in any way related to the cheerleader group, she has no pull. So not only is it not Bex's responsibility to fix this, she probably can't. Lastly, why can't Stella defend herself? Why is she helpless? And why can't she go to the school? If she's going to get in trouble if she tells, then there's a bigger issue here. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend it's weird that she wants to name our son after her dead ex-boyfriend? My 31 male girlfriend's 30 female ex-boyfriend passed away 7 years ago from sickle cell disease. They shared a son together who is 9 years old. I adore him and look after him like he's my own. As for us, we began dating 3 years ago and everything has been going really great. She is currently 6 months pregnant and we are having a boy. We're both really excited, but there is tension between us because she suggested that we name our son after her ex-boyfriend, which I instantly said no to. That's definitely not happening. So she then asked if it could be his middle name then because it would mean a lot to her. I told her it's extremely weird because our kid has absolutely no relation to her ex-boyfriend, and it's offensive to me to have our son named after a dead guy that she used to date. She got all crappy with me and said I was disrespectful and wasn't taking her feelings into consideration, blah blah blah, and then told me to remember that dead guy she used to date is the real father of her son. I don't think it was fair to rub that in my face, so now we're both pissed off with each other. I genuinely think it was out of line for her to even ask me that, not to mention inappropriate. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. I can't believe she threw that real father statement in your face. That makes her the a-hole, pregnant or not. She should have named his child after him, not yours. I don't think she's the a-hole for asking. The middle name suggestion was a pretty good compromise as well. But it is his kid too. And I'm sure if I was in this situation, I'd have a Randy Jackson "that's a no from me dog" reaction. She turned into the a-hole as soon as she had to remind him that he's not her son's real father. Not the a-hole. F that. That isn't his kid. It's your kid. That is insanely disrespectful. And I can't believe someone would suggest naming a child she had with her current boyfriend after an ex. That is a huge red flag, my man. Not the a-hole. She has a whole kid from her ex. Why does your son have to be named after him? Is she still in love with her dead boyfriend? She needs to get some counseling. That isn't her ex's son at all. Her asking to name him after the ex is so inappropriate and weird. To be fair, I feel like it's valid to still love someone who passed away even if you're in another relationship. But you can't let that influence your current relationship and make your significant other name his child after the guy. I feel bad for her. She needs therapy, it sounds like, to get over the big stuff. Next story. Am I the a-hole for implying that my boyfriend is cheap because of the Valentine's Day gift he got me? I, female 31, have been with my boyfriend, male 37, who's a single dad with 2 boys for 2 years. He has a decent job with decent income and is into woodworking as a hobby. For Valentine's Day, birthdays, and every other celebration, he'd gift me mostly jewelry, and I get him his favorite gadgets or sports gear. For this Valentine, I got him sneakers, and I found out today that his gift for me was a wooden framed photo of him, me, and the kids. I gotta say, I wasn't thrilled with it. When I told my boyfriend my honest opinion, I didn't want to open my mouth, but he pushed me. He said he couldn't believe this was my reaction. But I pointed out that he has money too for a $200 necklace at least, so I could wear it at the engagement party. But he said I was out of line to imply he was being cheap, when all he was doing was to make me a special gift. I'd also had kids help with it and put so much thought and effort in it, because they see me as a family and I should be appreciative of that. I said I was, but still thought he could have added a necklace as a great combo, but he got even more mad, saying he couldn't understand why I'd value a necklace as much as, or even over a special gift he and the kids made for me. We went back and forth on this and breakfast got ruined. He went upstairs and refused to speak to me. I feel like he blew this out of proportion since he asked for my opinion, and I don't know if he has the right to be upset with me now. Am I the a-hole? For Valentine's Day, birthdays, and every other celebration, he'd gift me mostly jewelry. So you don't have enough jewelry yet? How many necks do you have? Yeah, he has more than a right to be upset with you. Wear an old necklace and appreciate what you have with this man and his kids. You're the a-hole. Plot twist? Opie's a giraffe. But I'm gonna say it. A $200 necklace really is not great anyway. If you're gonna be shallow, go all the way. You're the a-hole. I'm assuming he made a frame, which takes a lot of time and effort. Every minute of the project he would be thinking of you. Then he found a photo of him and his kids and you. He is literally presenting you with an image of you as part of his family. And you're complaining as it's not worth a lot. Do you know the minimum value of the wood? Then add that to his time. Entitled much? I'm wondering if the image of the family together is something that he was planning to make happen. With an engagement ring at dinner, a more intimate affair than breakfast with family. And he was really asking how she felt about being in that picture and not the gift itself. Definitely Opie is the a-hole. Wonder if he holds back on that ring. I agree. Opie may have just showed their true colors and made him do a rethink. This could be life-changing. You're the a-hole. His gift is awesome and amazing. The fact that you're upset because of the dollar value is sad. There are things in life that are more important than money. Those 3 people in that picture and who made that frame are more valuable than a necklace. I mean, the dollar value actually is probably quite high if you consider the time it took him to do it, and his hourly pay plus the time it took to go buy the materials, and of course the price of the materials. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for being ungrateful that my boyfriend keeps getting me chocolate? So my boyfriend and I have been together for 8 months, and we get along and everything. I don't like chocolate, except dark chocolate, like J.R. Mints. I had a dairy allergy when I was a kid, and even though I outgrew it for the most part, I just don't like chocolate. My boyfriend seems to think he'll get me to like chocolate because all girls like chocolate and it's weird I don't. He's given me chocolates for every holiday, either with a different gift or chocolate was the gift. He tells me to just try it, so I do, and end up disliking it, so he eats it. It's annoying to put thought into his gift, and he keeps purposely getting me something I dislike. We did Valentine's yesterday and he gave me 3 things of chocolate. I was sorta annoyed. It is said I was being ungrateful and Valentine's is a chocolate holiday, so what do you expect? My ex-boyfriend one time got me donuts for Valentine's Day because he knew I hated chocolate. I told him I'm never going to like chocolate, and it's not funny or whatever he thinks it is. He said most girls like chocolate, and I should be happy that he even remembers to get a gift. That is not his fault I'm so picky. Maybe he's right, and I'm just being stubborn or something. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. He is demonstrating, repeatedly, that you do not matter to him. Believe him. Also, that he's using Opie to get himself a gift. He knows she doesn't like chocolate, but he does. So he uses trying to convince her to get himself chocolate. Next, it will be all girls like bowling balls that say Homer. Not stay home. Find someone better. You don't need to put up with this. Yeah, 8 months in, and his true colors already showing. She really should call it quits. What happens next time when he buys something else she's not into, but comes away with, but all other girls like that? He is very selfish. Wouldn't be surprised if he bought the chocolates in the hope that he gets to eat them, because he knows she won't. Not stay home. If you've specifically told him, I don't like this thing, but he keeps giving it to you anyway, then he has no respect for your opinion. Honestly, when I see chocolate or flowers given as a gift to a woman, all I think is that dude giving it have zero thought. It's generalizing, and frankly sexist to assume all women appreciate that. Yep, can't believe I had to scroll this far to see someone point out that believing stereotypes about women over what this particular woman has told him, repeatedly, what she does and doesn't like is so sexist. Opie, find someone who treats you like an individual, and not a physical embodiment of their idea of a woman. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my mother-in-law host an online memorial service for my 26th female miscarriage? I recently miscarried at 12 weeks. The pregnancy wasn't planned, but my husband and I were planning on keeping it as we are both financially secure enough to have a child. My husband was disappointed, but my mother-in-law is devastated. She has been inconsolable and has called me multiple times, crying. The issue is that I'm not upset about it at all. I really didn't have enough time to get attached to the idea of being pregnant, as I only knew for sure about 3 weeks before the miscarriage. I've listened to her whenever she needs, but she can't understand why I'm not as upset as her. The last straw came when my husband casually brought up a Zoom call mother-in-law is organizing for the baby's memorial. We're still in lockdown, so in-person is out of the question, thank God. She wants to invite a lot of their large, close-knit family. Hubby assumed that she'd talk to me about it and phoned her to tell her she needed to take a step back. She blew up at him and called me cold and unfeeling and asked what mother wouldn't mourn the loss of their child. In my eyes, I'm not a mother and I don't have a child. I'm a scaredy blob of cells. To me, it's the equivalent of crying over my period every month. I understand not everyone feels like this and I want to be sympathetic, but a memorial is way beyond my comfort zone. I refused to let it go ahead, and she's been radio silent since. Husband is beyond stressed already from dealing with her, and I think her grieving needs to take a backseat for a while. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Since some people ask for info, mother-in-law had fertility issues. Husband is her only child, and she dealt with a lot of early and late-term miscarriages. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and your mother-in-law is weird. At 12 weeks, a lot of couples haven't even told family about the pregnancy yet, as miscarriages are so common in the first trimester. Plenty of women miscarry without ever knowing they were pregnant. Having a memorial service for a 12-week pregnancy is not a thing. I'm sorry you and your husband are having to deal with this. Glad you're doing okay. When/if you get pregnant again, You might want to keep the information yourselves until 6 weeks or so. Yeah, we stupidly let her know as soon as we did. She knew for about 3 weeks and had already started buying baby items. Lesson learned for sure. Not stupid. You had no way of knowing she would react this way. Not at A-Hall. I was going for no A-Halls here until she insulted you for not grieving like she wants you to. Yeah, that conversation was beyond rude. I don't think she knows I heard it though. Not at A-Hall. I get that she wanted to be a grandma, but holy cow. She's imposing something on you that you don't want. You had not bonded to the baby at all yet. Posting a memorial against your will is downright creepy. It's good your husband is backing you up. Yep, she needs to take a step back. Not at A-Hall. She's out of line. OP, I say this gently. You have a slight husband problem too. He really needs to take the lead at healthy boundary setting with his mom. I am grateful he called her to tell her step back. I think this is a good time for you to talk privately with him on your mutual boundaries with her. But this is a good time for you and him to really look at the roles of her. At a minimum, she is now completely on the outside of any information until you are ready to share. Lastly, sorry this is happening. That's intense. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for saying I wish my mom wasn't autistic? So my 16 female mom is autistic. She does a lot of little things that annoy me even though I know she can't help it. Like she'll come into my room and scream at me if everything's not organized. And by organized, she means every book in my bookshelf must be in color-coded order. And every single piece of clothing needs to be exactly in its place in my dresser. And I can't move anything or redecorate my room because it freaks her out. So it's been the same since I was 10. Also, she will say kinda mean things to me like, "You've been gaining a lot of weight recently," which I know isn't mean to make me feel bad, but it still does. Also, she'll come into my room while I'm on a Zoom class and start telling me about everything she's thinking about while I'm trying to focus. If I ever was to tell her the things she does that annoy me, she'd call me an ableist and say I was forcing her to mask in her own home, and she thought she raised me better than that, so I usually don't bother trying. I try to talk to my dad about it sometimes, but he always uses himself as an excuse. And he says that he loves her, so he's able to look past all the little things she does that may be weird, but like he chose to be with her, but I just happened to be born into this family. Yesterday, I was in the middle of a really important test on Zoom, and she came in and started telling me about headphones and how she likes them or something. I was just nodding and saying, uh-huh, and she was like, "Are you even listening to me?" I told her I was in the middle of a test, and she said that I know she needs to talk about these things, so I need to listen. I was trying to listen and do my test at the same time, but it was hard, and I ended up getting 10 points off for turning it in late. So now I have a 75 rather than an 85. Later yesterday, I was talking to my friend on FaceTime. In middle school, me and this friend didn't like each other, but we became friends again last year. But my mom came into my room and asked who I was talking to, and I told her my friend's name, and she said loudly, "I thought you hated her." I got really annoyed and tried to explain to my friend that I said that 3 years ago. Luckily, my friend understood, but I'm still really annoyed at my mom for saying that. She keeps saying that it doesn't matter because my friend wasn't mad, and I shouldn't be mad at her because I know it's hard for her to forget things because of her autism. She's saying I should apologize to her for getting mad at her over something she can't control. My dad says that I'm being ableist. But like, I'm not saying autistic people shouldn't have kids or anything. I'm just saying that you should make sure you're able to have kids before you do, because I feel like my mom often forgets that I'm the child in this relationship. My parents still think I'm the a-hole, and I haven't spoken to them all morning. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Being autistic doesn't excuse the things your mom is doing. It may explain some of them, but they aren't excuses. Your mom is an adult, and I'm assuming she's known about her autism for a long time. It is her responsibility to handle her behavior, and if she can't, she needs to speak to a professional who can help her. Also, I don't see in your story where you said you wished she wasn't autistic. I think a more accurate thing to say is, I don't want you to treat me this way. It is possible to be a decent person with autism, and frankly, some of this seems more like a personality problem that she's using autism to hide behind. I don't know all that much about autism. Can somebody help me out here? Most of this doesn't sound like autism to me. It sounds like boundary stumping by someone who has been enabled their whole life with a side of autism. For example, I don't understand why an autistic person wouldn't understand these are my school hours, I cannot talk from 8 to 2. That sounds like a super clean routine that would be easy to establish, as long as the person wasn't just a boundary stumper. I'm autistic. I would never behave like your mom does. Your mom is an a-hole, and so is your dad. He's looking past her quirks and ignoring that she is in fact abusing you. Shouting at you for not having your bookshelf in order? Not okay. Sabotaging your test? Not okay. I'm actually kind of concerned because she does not behave like a functioning adult should. Do you have a school counselor you can talk to about this? Her diagnosis is 100% irrelevant. She's screaming at you for invalid reasons. She's sabotaging your schoolwork and potentially your health and your future. If she wants to be a good mom, she'll take the help she needs to be that. Not an a-hole. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter it's her fault that her babysitter quit? I have 3 kids, 6, 4, and nearly a year old. When I was pregnant with my youngest, I hired a sitter to pick the 2 up from school and watch them. We really liked her and appreciated her. My eldest loved her babysitter, but she began to develop a huge attitude. I know one of her friends has a nanny who she's basically allowed to boss around with little consequence. We told my daughter that her sitter is in charge and she's to respect her, not demand things of her. A few months ago, the sitter asked my daughter to grab the baby's diaper bag and my daughter sassed back saying, "You can't tell me what to do. I'm the boss of you." The sitter told me that night and I immediately addressed it in front of the sitter. I told my daughter that was not acceptable. She's not a boss of anyone, and I took away her TV privilege for a week. It happened again just a month later, and I had a much sterner talk with her, took away more privileges. Both times I made her verbally apologize and write a note of apology to her sitter. The sitter accepted it, but I could tell she was losing patience. I didn't blame her and ended up giving her a raise out of guilt. I also stopped arranging playdates for her and a friend who treated her nanny terribly. They don't go to the same school, so they don't see each other at all anymore. I'll add I did try talking with my daughter calmly and asking why she felt that this was okay. She'd say, "We pay her, I'm her boss." And I said, "No, that's not true." I said she's hired to take care of her and deserved respect. My daughter would always seem to understand. Well, things came to a head a few weeks ago. My daughter was acting up. Sitter had tried several de-escalation tactics, but finally told her to go have quiet time in her room. My daughter screamed in her face, "I'm the boss of you. I'll get you fired." The sitter calmly picked up the phone and called me. We have cameras in our house, which she knew about, and told me to come home immediately. Upon arrival, she quit. Nothing I said or did could make her stay, and I understood. I was furious with my daughter and let her have it. She had several things taken away from her, and she didn't do anything remotely fun until recently. This whole thing has left us in the bind. Luckily, the school that my younger 2 go to is open later, so I can pick them up when I get off work. I have been scrambling to find a new sitter, but in the meantime, I got my daughter into an after-school program. Because there's no more sitter, there's no one to take her to her swim class. She's been complaining that she can't do it anymore, and I told her that it's her own fault. She's the reason why her sitter quit, and until I can find someone new, she won't get to do the fun activities that her sitter took her to. My husband agrees that there's nothing we can do, but thinks I was far too harsh with our daughter, saying she's only 6. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Her actions impacted someone enough to make them quit a job they were being paid to do. She has soiled her reputation as word spreads fast within the babysitter community if a child treats her caregiver like that. I imagine this wasn't 3 isolated events, but more like it was happening way more frequently, but those 3 times were when babysitter was at her last straw. The consequences before didn't work, and now the impact of her actions is bothering her. She is old enough to know now that her actions had consequences, and this is why she can't go to her fun activities. I definitely agree with this. Your daughter needs to learn the consequences of her actions. Many people in the sub seem to lack this skill, which, oh man, you wouldn't believe how many people loathe them. OP, you weren't being harsh. Instead, you were far better than most people in this sub. Definitely a great job at giving your daughter stern boundaries to not let her grow up spoiled. She is a 6-year-old. Surely she should learn about respecting other people now? I'm slightly surprised she doesn't have heavier punishment. so this is definitely a fair enough consequence. And it wasn't like you immediately yelled at your daughter. You gave her several chances, which she has repeatedly broken. Kudos to the babysitter as well. She took it like a champ instead of yelling at your daughter. Impressive. Not a-hole. Not a-hole. Personally, I think pointing out that not being able to go swim is a direct result of not having a sitter. And that not having a sitter is a result of her behavior is a good example of natural consequences. And when you get a new sitter, I would carefully go over appropriate behavior again. I would want to have a plan with a new sitter for if she tries the same tactics again. Edit. I'm editing to acknowledge this is unpopular on the sub, but is backed by studies on child development and psychology, so I'm not ashamed that my opinion is deemed wrong here. You're the a-hole. Your kid is 6. Sure, they are old enough to understand consequences, but nothing that your child did was developmentally inappropriate for age, nor were they things that couldn't have been dealt with in a patient manner. Having kids tests your nerves. I've got a 9-year-old and 7-year-old. It doesn't get easier. It gets only harder. Saying this is all your fault, you're a brat, is absolutely not the way to approach this. Maybe sit down. Apologize for how you spoke to her. Yes, apologize. Apologizing to kids when you are wrong is incredibly important and teaches personal responsibility and the ability to admit they were wrong in the future, and explain what you really meant. Tell your 6-year-old, when she treats people bad and makes them feel bad, they might not want to be around her, and that the way she treated her babysitter made her feel bad. Cite specific examples. Remember when you said this? Remember when you did this? Adding, once your child acknowledges she did something wrong and she made a sitter feel bad, then bring up missing out on swimming as a consequence of that because now she has to go to aftercare elsewhere. And that when you do find a new sitter, she can go back to swimming, but she's going to have to try really hard and treat her new babysitter the way she wants people to treat her so she doesn't miss out on it anymore. Instill empathy instead of shaming your child while still framing what happened as a consequence of how she acted. I will always recommend reading and research on child development. Your daughter is old enough to understand, but she is not old enough to be shamed into compliance without lasting psychological effects. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for arguing against dropping the step from titles in my step family? I, 16 male, live with my dad, stepmom, step-siblings, 10 female and 7 male, and half-brother, 2 male. My dad and stepmom got married 7 years ago. 7 male was an infant at the time. They never wanted to consider us a step-family, but that's how I've always felt. Her kids feel different because they were younger and don't remember life without me and my dad, while I remember life without them clearly. I also think they love the idea, while I just don't feel that way about them. I don't hate them, but I'm not too close to any of them except my half-brother. He's in a tight spot since 7 male dislikes him for taking the spot of the baby, and 10 female wanted a sister, so has no interest. And I had my mom walk out on me, so I know what it's like to be in a weird spot. So I have bonded with him. I usually call him a brother, but I add a half around my step family because it would hurt their feelings more if I called him brother, but used the step for them. Anyway, my dad and stepmom sat me down and asked me to consider the way things could be and stuff if I just stop adding step the whole time and call them mom/brother/sister. I said I wasn't going to do that. My dad and I ended up getting heated because he said it was time to accept them as just family, while I told him he had to accept I felt different to the rest of them. He told me it was mean-spirited to keep it up after so many years when I know it upsets my step-siblings and him and my stepmom. He told me I'm almost an adult and should be willing to put the feelings of others into consideration if not first, because kids. I told him he can't tell me how to feel, and he called me a jerk. I want to know, am I the a-hole for this? Not the a-hole. You have to consider their feelings, but they don't have to consider yours. Ah, the double standards are strong in your family. Plus, your dad calling you a jerk. Wow, he sounds lovely to be around. Right? What kind of dad uses language like that with their teenage son? They need to grow the hell up and get over it. Not the a-hole, OP. Never let people blame you for their own insecurities or issues. Not the a-hole. The removal of such titles only come with time, and it is entirely up to the individual, in this case you, and when that is, or if it even happens at all. The only people allowing these titles to strain your relationships are them. They're attempting to bulldoze over your feelings and discomfort to give them the sense of a completed whole family unit, when the reality is that can be achieved without it, especially if they simply look into account how you feel about it. There is nothing wrong with being closer to one than the others. In large families, whether blood-related full or not, it happens. I am one of 7 kids, so it definitely happens, and that is perfectly okay. You cannot force yourself to build stronger bonds with them, not when they are pressuring you, and many of them still sound so young. There is time, but then again, if it never worked out that way and you still felt it the same, that is perfectly okay too. They are in the wrong here, attempting to pressure you into doing/behaving a certain way to appease them, rather than attempting to work through that with you as a family. Take care of yourself and good luck. I ruined my family's life and I don't regret it. All names are changed. This all happened 10 years ago when I was 19. Around the holidays, I found out my then boyfriend Kevin was cheating on me with my older sister Jen. I was beyond devastated because Jen and I were really close and she was my role model. Not only that, but Kevin was honestly my first big love, so it was really crushing. Everything was made so much worse when my parents sided with Jen. She had always been a bit of the golden child, but my parents had never shown their favoritism to this extent. They kept telling me that these things happen, but family always forgives, and crap like that. It made me cry a lot, and I kept telling them that I couldn't forgive them. My dad told me to stop being so dramatic. My mom said I was a disappointment because she raised me better. Jen just said she was sorry, but she and Kevin really loved each other and they never meant to hurt me. I honestly just felt so alone and depressed and worthless. I was like a zombie for months. I mostly just slept and refused to talk to my sister. My parents kept telling me to move on because even if it hurt, Jen was still my sister and she was more important than some guy. Eventually, it was too much and I decided to end myself. I was so convinced that Kevin was the love of my life and I just couldn't get over how he betrayed me and how my family made me feel so alone and crazy. I wrote a very angry and depressing final note that talked about everything that had happened and scheduled it to be published on my Tumblr after I died. Fortunately, my roommate/best friend Alice found me after I overdosed on pills. I was unconscious for a while before I woke up. Then I was put into hold because I was still very obviously self-ending and was considered a danger to myself. I was in there for a while and only had contact with my grandparents since they were the only ones I wanted to talk to at a time. When I finally got to go home, it was my grandparents who picked me up and took me to their house. They are the reason why I'm still here right now, and I love them more than anything in the world. They put me in therapy, got my medication, and were with me the whole time. I never asked about my family, and they never told me anything either. At the time, I just assumed they were mad at me for being dramatic. Then, I got the real story from Alice a month later. Her then-girlfriend had been angry on my behalf and shared my Tumblr post on her Facebook. She even tagged my parents, Jen, and Kevin and called them out. Her then-girlfriend was also one of those people who had over 1,000 friends, so the post got shared, and my family and Kevin were attacked by family, friends, and strangers. It was a crap show. A lot of people called Jenny whore, and my parents heartless monsters. My mom was ostracized by her church. My dad's friends stopped talking to him. A lot of Jen's friends were disgusted by her behavior and ditched her. Kevin got backlash too because he lied to his super religious family that we had broken up amicably and said God guided him to Jen. My grandparents told my mom, their daughter, that she was dead to them for how much she and my family hurt me. They were the ones that forced my parents and Jen to back off and leave me alone and to never contact me until I reached out to them. But I never did because they were dead to me too. Jen and Kevin ended up breaking up after his parents sent him away to find Jesus again. I have no idea what became of him. Jen had to move to get away from everyone calling her a whore. I haven't spoken or even seen her in 10 years. Last I heard, she's got 3 kids from 2 different men and she's not with either of them. My parents became social outcasts and are now just homebodies. We rarely talk and it's all superficial. They missed my birthdays, my graduation, my engagement, and even my wedding. They won't be part of my child's life either. I know it hurts them. I tell people around me that I don't care about them or their feelings, which is true to an extent. But in reality, I'm glad. I'm glad they're hurting and suffering. I'm glad their lives suck and they're all unhappy. I shouldn't be, and I haven't told anyone, not even my therapist, how I actually feel about my family now. I know this is probably just my resentment and it's probably not healthy, but I can't help it. I almost ended myself over what they did, so it feels almost like karmic justice to see them hurting now. I even kind of hope they feel like how I've felt, alone and like no one cares about them. I'll tell my therapist one day, but I just wanted to say to the void for now. Now for the top comments. If destroying them gave you your sanity back, congratulations. Your grandparents sound great and loving. Spend as much time as you can with them. I'm glad you're enjoying life now. My grandparents are the best. I spend time with them as often as I can, and they've been a part of all my big milestones. You didn't ruin your family's life. They did that all on their own. I'm glad you have your grandparents in your corner. Your parents and sister, I can't even imagine how that must have felt. I'm glad you're at a better place in your life now, OP. I wish you and your family the best. My grandparents have always been on my side. I'm lucky to have them. Sometimes, in regards to my immediate family, I want to ask if it was worth it. But thank you. I'm happier now than I've ever been. Your parents just didn't think you had a power to hurt their little perfect lives and went for the least resistance path. Let your ex be with your sister, otherwise, what would have other people thought? Well, you messed all of them up and showed them that you have the power to create your own path, and they had to put up with all their lies and crappy behavior. The best revenge is living a great life. Virtual hugs. Next story. My sister being abused by my ex-fiancé, but I don't care, and I won't be helping her. 5 years ago, my older sister Jess slept with my ex-fiancé John. It was one of those I've loved him for years situations for Jess, or so she claimed back then, so she took her shot to get with him, even as the mistress he hides away. And John? Well, he was mad back then because I didn't fight for our relationship. Suffice to say that when I found out they were screwing around, I mentally thought, wow, these people are pathetic. I had no intentions of fighting, arguing, begging, and never even cried now that I think about it. Even back then, I was a one-and-done kind of person. I cut my mother off for cheating on my dad. I cut off friends who cheated on their partners even when we were stupid kids. Cheating isn't a mistake. It takes me off thinking about it. Just crying and telling me, you have to understand, like I hadn't caught her screwing my fiancé in my bed in my condo. Or John yelling at me saying, if you ever loved me, you'd fight for me, or cry for me, or do something. And then the most hilarious line of, maybe if you put out more, I wouldn't have strayed. And seriously, I was always the one initiating even before our engagement. And I had stopped bothering because he claimed his libido was lower than mine. I know for a fact that I'm a good lay, he just never wanted to put any effort in. And even if I hadn't been trying to have sex regularly, that is not an excuse to cheat. I tossed them out, packed up my crap, canceled everything but the honeymoon, and got refunds. I sent John's family their 25% contribution and security footage of John screwing my sister in the living room. It went back to the day he moved in, and the idiot probably forgot I had security cameras inside. And that was beyond petty, but despite how much his family loved me, I also knew that his doting father and grandmother would never believe John was capable of cheating on me without some kind of proof. I didn't need them harassing my family like they did others for lying about their family. I had also evicted John and then had an agent sell my condo while I turned my would-be honeymoon into a solo thank duck I'm free trip. And when I came back, I moved. Again, one and done kind of girl. Cheaters, liars, betrayers, and perverse jerks do not deserve forgiveness nor second chances. I learned that with my parents' situation. You give a second chance, they'll do it over and over again. Then scream, you said you forgave me. And I can't help it, it meant nothing, while victimizing themselves. It took my dad years to stop forgiving my mother, but I will never make that mistake. In 5 years, Jess and John got married because she was pregnant, moved into her apartment together, and now have 3 children, 4 male, 3 male, and newborn girl. They have no friends, no familial support beyond my mother. My dad is apparently involved with his grands but does not help financially, nor does he babysit or even let John into his house. I was visiting my dad when Jess showed up at his house in the middle of the night. She had her children with her, had a black eye, marks on her neck, and bruises on her arm. I was worried as my dad brought them all in. That worry disappeared the moment she said John got angry at her because I'm not OP. She was blubbering about all the things John expected of her and how he essentially wanted her to be me. Little Miss Perfect, even though I'm the one that didn't want him. Dad tried to stop her multiple times, but I told her to keep going. Her tirade was how it should have been me he hated and hit, not her. That John lost his family because of me. They only have our mother as help because of me. That I didn't love him enough to fight or be with him no matter the circumstance like she did. That everything falling apart was on me, not her. And that she was sick of how I ran away and yet still managed to ruin her relationship with John. Even her wedding was all about how OP would have wanted this, and intimacy always ends with sex with OP was better. You need to try harder. And apparently in Jess's eyes, John beating her for the first time was entirely on me. Wanna know why? Because her children look like our mother instead of me, who looks like my father. That even her children are treated like afterthoughts by John, because he had hoped they'd get good genes. They only had another child because he wanted one to look like me, and that one doesn't either. And then, she said that maybe if I talked to John, things would get better for her. After all that, Dad pretty much told her that her kids will be staying with him, but she was on her own. Go to the police or your mother. Then she turns to me, begging me to convince him otherwise. Like, is she serious? You're in a situation of your own making. You're older than me, decided to screw a taken man, and then married him even after you claimed all he wanted was the woman that abandoned him. You're the one that was cut off from any viable support system by being an awful person. No one deserves to be mistreated, and I don't view it as karma. But Jess stopped being my sister the first time she slept with John. Someone that loves you would never show such blatant hate for you. That goes for both of them. Isn't it funny how once they get the dude, get married and have kids, it all falls apart? A relationship that starts as an affair is never truly healthy. They might stay together, but it is rarely a soulmate situation. By the way, if John was so into you, why didn't he fight for the relationship? Bystanders, at least back then, begging and arguing is how you fight for a relationship. He spent about 3 months doing and saying whatever to anyone dumb enough to listen, trying to get messages to me. And honestly, he got a lot of people cut off by me in the process. So beyond that. Best way to keep a relationship is to not screw your partner over, or just break up with them. At least you can be cordial afterwards. I'd say that she wanted him and she got him. Congratulations. What a prize. Nope, it's not your mess to clean up. Exactly. She made her bed. Now she has to lie in it. Not your responsibility. Last story. I told on my mom's married boyfriend and ruined my life. My mother started having an affair with a married man, Bruce, over 10 years ago. My dad left her over it, but she stayed with Bruce with the promise of him divorcing his wife soon. Spoiler alert, it didn't happen. After 10 plus years of knowing my mother was the other woman, and after stalking Bruce's wife's socials, I couldn't take it anymore. He's a creepy man that no one in my family can stand, including my 3 other siblings. We've been tasked all these years to keep her dirty secret and treat Bruce as if he's not an adulterer. I took one for the team and sent some anonymous emails out to some contacts I found through social media. Bruce's wife responded to me and asked to speak, as she had no idea any of this was going on, which I highly suspected despite Bruce's lies all these years, so I sat down and phoned her. We talked for almost 3 hours. She's a nice woman who was nothing but kind to me. She's been married to Bruce for 30 years and had no idea he had a double life. His job allows him to travel frequently. I answered all her questions. During this convo though, I knew my relationship with my mother was over. I knew the details would get back to her and would pinpoint to me. Bruce's wife thanked me over and over and shared she would be divorcing Bruce once she got her finances in order. It was a very emotional conversation, and I'll never forget the sound of her cries as I told her all the details. The next day, I was completely cut off from my mother. I had no way of contacting her, and shortly after that, the harassment of members of my family came flooding in. Messages of disgust towards me and support towards my mother. Everyone turned on me and will no longer speak to me. I can't imagine she's telling them the truth of what I did. I told on her married boyfriend. I'm shocked my family has chosen her side and abandoned me. Sometimes regret washes over me, but in the end, all I did was speed up the inevitable. And I did it for my siblings who couldn't stand his presence anymore. I thought I would get rid of him, but it backfired. Not only are Bruce and my mother getting married, my siblings chose her side and have cut me off. This weighs heavy on my chest. It did for the last 10 years, and now because of what I did, it will continue. Thanks for reading and letting me get it out. Now for the comments. You did the right thing. Although you maybe should have anticipated this would speed up the process on Bruce and his wife getting a divorce. Your mother got what she wanted in the end, so she should be thanking you. For the best, though, she broke up your family by her selfish actions and chose a crappy man over her kids. You probably would have ended up going no contact with her anyways. True. Not sure why mom's so upset about this all being exposed. Like, girly, you've been with a married man for 10 plus years. Clearly you aren't that ashamed. Wait, why is she mad? If you didn't tell, the adulterer would still be married, and wouldn't be marrying your mom. Shouldn't she be thanking you? Unless he never intended to marry your mom and even she knows this. Lol. I'm willing to bet mom is mad because Bruce stands to lose a lot of assets, and will possibly have to pay alimony. Hard to say for sure, since we don't know the details of Bruce's marriage. But money's the only thing I can imagine being the reason he didn't leave his wife earlier, and why mom would be so mad. I'm no legal expert, but this is my best guess. Bingo. That's exactly it. Plus, most places, if you're married for longer than 10 years, it would guarantee the wife lifetime alimony as long as she doesn't remarry. Plus, the fact that if she's smart and hires a forensic accountant, any money spent on your mom and family in the last decade is considered marital property and she's entitled to half of it. So if you bought your mom a house, cars, whatever, they will be forced to sell. And or he'll have to pony up that amount during the divorce proceedings. Plus, if they have children together still at home, that's also child support. Dude basically stands to lose everything, and no doubt I wouldn't be surprised if the change in lifestyle causes your mom to look for another suitor. Did it really ruin your life though? I mean, if members of your family are harassing you and supporting your mother because you told your mom's boyfriend's wife that he's been cheating on her for the last 10 years with your mom, then I think that there are trash people who aren't worth your time. You aren't wrong. It's just hard to have everyone hate me so abruptly. Edit. Thank you to all the supportive comments. I have a few people in my corner rooting for me, but these comments have been comforting and therapeutic. The number of family that turned on me, I truly started to worry I was the problem and made a mistake. To answer some questions, money is a huge factor in all of this, which is why my mother/siblings are so angry and not thanking me. I am my mother's oldest daughter. Only my youngest siblings lives with her. We are all adults. I have 2 young children my mother has thrown to the curb for Bruce. They will never know who she is. I am in contact with a wife. She is a lovely woman who is aware of how this unfolded and has been so kind to me. I like to think in another life we would be friends. I've spent a lot of time putting together proof for her so she can get what she deserves out of the divorce. Keeping in touch with the wife angered Bruce and my mother, so much so they told my family I was harassing the wife. That fueled the fire more for my family to hate me. To the few that have commented I should have minded my own business, I wish this never was my business. What a laugh.